Let me see in my chat who is here. Oh, Rogue Girl. Hello, Rogue Girl. Welcome. Yay. Glad you joined me tonight. Cool. All right. Let's do a race, shall we? Why not? Oh, you know what? It's 10:20. I think I will call it a night. Let me see if I can put any more skills on this car, and I can't. So it's time for me to head off into the sunset, whichever way the sunset is. So I'm going to bid you farewell. This is the GrannyHandicap channel on Twitch. And I hope you will join me on my Discord sometime. That is ADMA, I think it's 3641. And it's on my Twitch. I have all my social media there for your perusal. And also on my ADMA YouTube channel. So, hope to see you another time, and I'm going to do my handicapped moment that I usually do at the end of my live stream. Earlier on the live cast, I was talking about how really disability, you kind of have to get political because it's the social spiral that is hard to break out of. You know, there's the issue of health care. People who don't get health care a lot of times may get a disability. If you've got a disability and you don't have health care, then your disability can't be mitigated. If you don't have health care, you might get depressed. Depression is a big problem among handicapped people. And when I say the disabled, I mean people with handicaps. Alright, so we all know that if you're disabled, you are more likely to get accused of something by the police. So, you know, and especially if you're a person of color. So disability has more of an impact for people of color. And if you get incarcerated, you've got a lot of company there because there's a goodly proportion of disabled people, especially mentally disabled people. People with mental challenges are very likely to have a run-in with the police, that they end up getting accused of a crime they didn't do, or getting killed because they did something that the policeman wasn't expecting. Now, that's not the fault of the police, but it's definitely a fault of our criminal justice system. We are not incarcerating just people who belong in jail. And this is a wide misperception that people have, that they think everybody in jail is a murderer or a robber or a rapist, you know, armed robbery, felony, you know, that sort of thing. But the cold reality is there's some people that simply put in jail get put in jail because they skip school too much, because we have law enforcement involved in the schools, which I don't think it should be. Children are not mentally capable of really weighing the outcome of their actions, and so, you know, if they get into drugs and then they're addicted and they want to get drugs, a lot of them get into crime as a way of paying for the drug habit. But if we had treatment that was affordable for people that get addicted, we wouldn't have a lot of the incarceration. So it's a vicious cycle. Health care, mental health care, substance abuse care, and all that goes with it, incarceration, and it's and the homeless cycle, because a lot of people who are disabled have a lower income than people who aren't, and a lot of them end up homeless because there is not enough housing to go around. If you want to get on the list for public housing, which I have, you might be waiting 3 years for a place to live. If you're getting evicted now and you need a place now, there is nothing for you now. There's waiting lists, and you have to have money for, now for public housing you don't have to have a deposit, but for most housing you have to have a deposit, and you have to have the first month's and the last month's rent maybe. It's ridiculous what people have to pay to rent a place nowadays. And a lot of people end up on the street with their families, small children included, because they can't afford the deposits and they're having to save up. Half of all homeless people have jobs and they're going to work every day. Now think about that. You know, everybody assumes that there's enough public housing, that nobody should have to go without a place to live, and that people on the street are lazy and they don't want to work. Well, half of them are disabled, and they can't afford to go to the doctor, so they can't apply for disability, because if you're applying for Social Security disability, it's like winning the lottery to get it. It's not a matter of finding a doctor that will declare you disabled if you are. Most doctors will not declare you disabled unless they find something wrong with you. So, you know, the big myth is that there's all of this fraud going on. And really, there's not that much fraud going on, because somebody would have to be crazy to go through all the stuff you have to do to get disability. And you still might not get it. I've known people with relatives who were dying that could not get disability. Now, I think anybody dying automatically ought to be put on disability. Why should they even have to go through the application process? If a doctor diagnoses you as dying, and usually that's confirmed by several specialists, then what's the big deal here? Why shouldn't you just get disability? Because you're going to have high medical bills and you need a way to pay for them so you can survive. Why should diabetics have to pay so much for their insulin that anybody working a minimum wage job can't afford it? And there are no drug programs for diabetics. There are no ways of getting it paid for. And people have the myth that they believe the myth that, oh, there's plenty of stuff. They can just get on Medicaid. Getting on Medicaid is when you have absolutely exhausted your savings account and you are unable to work. But if you can't prove you're unable to work, good luck to you. You're not going to get Medicaid. And you have to be able to prove that with getting a statement from a doctor. And if you can't get that statement from a doctor because you can't afford to go to the doctor, hello, you're not going to get Medicaid. So it's very, very unfair. The whole system is unfair. So I want to call attention to that because I am a dual eligible. I have Medicaid and I have Medicare. And what's the difference? Medicaid is what everybody over whatever the age limit is now, you can get it at 62. But if you wait longer, for some people, you get more money, which is ridiculous. I think the way it's calculated is ridiculous. It's your highest paying job ever. So mine just went up to $1,000 a month. And I'm one of the lucky ones. I've known a lot of people who only got $200 and something a month to try to live on. You can't even get an apartment for that, much less food and pay your utilities. And if you're behind a month on the rent, they kick you out. So, no, our system is not fair. And there's too many people accusing us of being crooks when we're not. I think it's insulting to fill out the food stamp application form in Georgia, and there's a question on there, are you a fleeing felon? I feel totally insulted by that. I am not a fleeing felon. I've never been, convicted of any crime, and yet that statement is on there. If I was a fleeing felon, would I admit it to you? Come on. It's crazy. And there's no incentive when somebody gets out of jail because they have that stigma of that police record which follows them for the rest of their lives. If they did some minor crime and they paid their debt to society, shouldn't they be absolved of that guilt and be able to go out and get a job without having to put down, I was a felon? And you can get felony charges for things that are not violent. I mean, come on. Drug charges, a lot of times in the 80s, they thought that it would make crime go away if they put harsh enough penalties on there. But what it didn't work to reduce crime. Crime did go down, but it wasn't because of all the incarceration. Because crooks aren't really, they think they're not going to get caught, so these big penalties don't mean anything to the hardened criminals. It just makes it harder for somebody who makes a mistake when they're teenage to overcome that mistake. So, I think we ought to start rethinking some of these social issues. They are complicated. They are not easy, or we would have already solved them. You can't just take one side of an issue and say, well, this is how it is, because most social issues are very complicated. And there are a lot of people studying that stuff. But, we need to think about how we can make our country better. And one way is by not incarcerating more people than Communist China incarcerates. Really? We're a civilized country, but we have human rights groups all over the world looking at us like, here we used to be such a good country, and we have so many human rights violations, it's not even funny. So, yeah, we need to make some changes, and if I sound like I'm very liberal, well, I am. Because I've seen the effects in my life, being handicapped all my life, And I've seen it in the lives of other people that I've been sitting in all those waiting rooms for defects and for Social Security, and I talk to people. And I've heard their stories. And I think I'm a pretty good judge of character. I can pretty much tell if somebody's lying to me. Why would they have any reason to lie to somebody who's waiting in the waiting room just like they are? You know, I don't have any power over them, so, you know. But I've heard all these stories from people who tried to get disability and couldn't, and can't find a place to live because everything's too expensive, and can't find a job because, you know, I was going from job to job to job because everything that I thought wouldn't involve lifting did. Even if you work in an office, you're hefting those big boxes of files. So, you know, what do you do if you really shouldn't be lifting and your doctor has told you you're not supposed to? But, you know, my back is very messed up, and it's messed up because I was a taxi driver and had to lift 110-pound boxes of blood in glass jars that was being shipped out of the country. So, you know, they don't ship it in plastic, they ship it in glass so they can reuse the bottles. So, you know, I'm telling you, it's not like you think it is. You see people in your circles, and you see what's in your little corner of the world, but that's not how it is. If you don't know anybody handicapped, how do you know what we go through? If you don't know anybody who's a person of color, how do you know what they go through? If you're not friends with anybody who's homeless, how do you know that what they go through? So I'm telling you, you know, what you hear on the news and what you read is not the whole story. So I just want you to do some research of your own, okay? If you're not friends with anybody who's a person of color, maybe you've got a neighbor who is. Knock on the door and say hi, and just get to know them a little bit. How's that? What was that? But, you know, get to know somebody who's disabled. Get to know somebody who's different than you are, who has a different religion than you do, or who is an atheist. Get to know an atheist. Find out why they feel that way, you know. Find somebody, or if you're an atheist, make friends with somebody who's Christian, Muslim, Jewish, or Hindu. You know, make friends with people. You don't have to be close friends, but just make friends with your neighbors and see what they're all about. Make friends with an immigrant before you start criticizing them. You know. And you might find that you've got more in common with these people than you think. So that's my handicap moment for the evening, for what it's worth. I'm Dennis Cole, aka GrannyHandicap, and I will not be here tomorrow because I don't do my live stream on Sunday, but I do it Monday through Saturday. So Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10. I usually am doing Forza Horizon 4, but on Thursdays I do Slime Rancher. So please do tune in, and I would love to hear from you. I would love to know, what do you think about all the stuff I talk about? And do you have a handicap? And how does it affect you playing this game? Let me know. I'm on social media. contact me. Let me know what you're all about. Because I want to know. I care about y'all. So have a good night, and don't let the handicaps get you down. Take care. Good night.